It's time to take 10 minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.
Welcome to our discussion of Parashat Shofetim, future anxiety. If we look at the Parashat, there's an interesting, intriguing pasuk. It says, Tamim tiyeh Hashem Elokecha. You should be whole with God. Shalem yehi. You should be, as Unclus says, complete with God. Does it mean like the Chizkuni says that, you should fear God, you should be completely with God, nobody else? That's interesting. But the Ramban says no. It's talking about something else. You see, the context there is that the nations of the world, they have Ma'onanim, Kosmim. They have people who predict the future through clouds, through various magic. But you are different. You shouldn't have any people who Ma'onim, Nachesh, Menachashev, different types of witches, people who seek to speak with the dead, who call out to the dead. Not you. You should be whole with God. What does that mean? The Ramban says that God is in charge of everything, and He knows what's going to be in the future. We should only ask from Him, or His prophets, or His righteous people, or through the Urim V'Tumim, through the breastplate of the high priest, and the various letters that it has on there. We should not go to all the different types of astrologers and everybody else. So I'd like us to think about this together a little bit. To what extent in life future anxiety is the thing? I mean, think about it. In every realm of life, greatest commodity is to know the future. If we knew the future, we would be happier, richer, and everything else. Think about it. If it comes to health, right? People want to know today, well, what's your DNA? What's the prognostication for your particular genes, and how are you going to do health-wise? Do we want to know that future or not? But that future is coming where we'll be able to find out more about what's going to be. Health prevention. We're trying to change the future by taking care of our health now, so we can try to predict and prognosticate what our health will be and how long we could live. Doesn't always work. When it comes to wealth, it's a whole field of financial planning, prognostication of stocks and bonds, and the market is going up, it's going down. There's a whole world, there's a whole media empire of different people trying to explain and prognosticate. Will the market go up? Will it go down? How's it doing? Will the president be able to claim that he has a good economy or a bad economy? What will be in the future? What will be if we have this president or that president? Prognostication of the financial future is also a huge area and a huge field. And then sports and politics. I mean, you could just go up and down the dial of whether it's a television or it's a radio or the cable channels. It's all prognostication of sports and politics. It's amazing. People think about all year, will the Cowboys have a better team this year? They have a new linebacker, they have a new this. And what will happen? What's going to be in baseball, football, basketball? What's the prognostication? And everyone's wondering, what about this team? What about that team? What are the odds? And what if they're trying to bet on it? Politics, who's going to win? Kamala, Trump, who's got the votes in general and different in the swing states. The prognostication of the future is where it's at. That's what everybody wants to know. That's the $1,000 question. What will be? Politics in the land of Israel. What will be? Future anxiety. How will the Israel Arab conflict resolve itself? What will be in the future? Will there be calm? Will calm be restored to the north, to the south, etc.? Will be the future people who live in the other people, Arab people who live in that area? What will be in their future? All of this prognostication, the future. Comes the pasuk and says, Tamim tiyeh Hashem Elokecha. Don't try to prognosticate based on all sorts of mysterious methodologies. We have to just walk with God. There's a story. The Gemara tells that that Chizkiah said he's not having any children. So Yeshaya said, "What are you doing? The world is not here for you to not have children. You need to have children." He says, "Yes, but I could see the future that I'm going to have a wicked son. He says, "Hani kavshu rachman elam lech." What are you getting involved in the hidden things of God? Whether your son will be righteous or wicked, your job is just to have children. Period. We can't try to outsmart the future, to be more crafty and somehow get away from the future. Think about biblical figures back in Genesis, back in Bereshit, who were supposed to be tamim, were supposed to walk humbly, walk simply with God. Think of the first one was Noah. Noah was an ish tam. So it's interesting, by his nature, he wasn't going to take any action. He was just sitting there, and what's going to be with all these wicked people, he's not worried about that. God forced him to become very future-oriented. He had to build that ark to get ready for the flood that would take place in 120 years. Think about Avram Avinu, that he had no idea what's going to be in the future. How am I going to have a nation? I barely have one son. I barely have any children from my main wife. How am I going to be a nation? And yet, God adjures him, please, walk in front of me and be simple. Don't ask questions. How are the Jewish people going to survive if we ask that throughout history? After the Inquisition, after the expulsion, after the Crusades, how are the Jewish people going to survive after the Holocaust? People try to prognosticate. Walk with God and just be simple. Be pure of heart. Don't try to figure out what's going to be. Walk with God, you'll be okay. And think about Yaakov. We always think of Yaakov as always conniving, he's always planning. But really he started out as an ish tam. He's a simple man. He knew that the favoritism was heading toward his brother, and he was so righteous, and yet Yitzchak paid no attention to him, perhaps. And so he was an ish tam. He wasn't trying to look into the future. But his mother, she had a lot of anxiety about the future. What's going to be? If he blesses Esav, then what's going to happen to you? And the Radak says, she didn't have to worry so much. I mean, Yaakov is Yaakov, so Yaakov will be Yaakov. The future of Yaakov is going to be with the future of Yaakov. And she sort of got him into that whole mode of worrying about the future, prognosticating about the future. But really the truth is, that's not his business. He was just a simple man, and somehow everything would have worked out, even without stealing the blessings and all that. It says in the Psalms, Ashlech al Hashem yavecha, v'hu yichalka lecha, that we should cast our burden on God, and He will sustain us. Tehillim Nun Hey Chaf Gimel 55:23. Sometimes we have a burden, we're worried about the future. God says, cast your burden on God, give it to God, and He will sustain you. He will support you. He will be at your side. He says, Lo yiten la'olam mot latzadik. He will not allow the righteous to falter. So, we all have a lot of anxiety about the future. Our health, our wealth, Israel, so many things, community. We're always worried about the future. And the Torah says, Tamim tiyeh Hashem Elokech. How does it work? How do you walk sort of humbly with your God? How do you walk without trying to figure out what's going to be tomorrow, and maybe I could pull off this stunt so I could try to accomplish this so that could happen? How do you avoid all that kind of thinking? And how can we calm down about anxiety we might have about our children, about our work, about our finances, about the future, about the land of Israel? How do we do it? It's sort of mysterious. Tamim tiyeh. Be as simple, as if I'm not so smart. I can't figure it out. I'm tamim. I'm just a simple kind of a guy. That's how we have to walk with God. Bitmimut, it's sapelo. You should, as Rashi says, look forward to Him. Lo tachkor achar. Don't try to seek after all the things in the future. Whatever happens to you, accept it with a purity of heart. Then you will be truly His nation, His people, have a portion with God. That's how it works. Can we explain it? How do you explain it? How does that help if you just put your faith with God? Does that mean everything's going to be okay? That we don't know. We do know, as the Torah says, Tamim tiyeh Hashem Elokech. Don't try to figure it all out. Sure, we should use our brains to figure out the best way to be as healthy and wealthy as we can. But then, after we've done our human part, shouldn't go to any astrologers, of anything parallel to that. We at that point, you have to put the faith in God that He's a good God, and that in the end, things will be good. When, how exactly that relates to my life and my future, that we don't know. But we know that in the end, God is good, and the future ultimately will be good. Thank you for joining us here at the Baron Hirsch Congregation for a discussion of Parshat Shofetim. Join us each week for a discussion of the Parsha and the holidays. And thanks to Jason Lefkowitz, our producer. Thank you.
This has been 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.